feel free to bring a little bit of your spirit and participation into this room to let the speakers up here know that you appreciate the work that they're doing, that you are inspired, that you are fired up, and to remind everyone that, again, we are a tribe, and this is kind of a collective effort. And so I am actually going to introduce our first Walking Matters speakers, which are going to be Wendy Landham from WalkBoston.
Well, good morning. It's very exciting to be in a room with hundreds of people who are thinking about walking. That's what I spend all day, every day, thinking about. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what inspires me and why walking matters to me and to WalkBoston as we work around Massachusetts. Imagine being elderly and trapped in your apartment for a week because the sidewalks outside your building are covered in snow and haven't been shoveled. And I have been at city council meetings where people are talking about that. Imagine being a mother with a stroller who is crossing streets without crosswalks or without walk signals and rushing across the street with their most precious cargo in front of them. Imagine being a 10-year-old who's never allowed to walk to school and discover the joys of independence and stopping along the way and admiring their own neighborhood. So when physical barriers and lack of safety prevent people from walking in their own communities, those communities are less fun. They're also less healthy, less wealthy, and less wise. We need to fix that. So that's what keeps me going to work every day. So as the leader of an advocacy organization that's focused on walking, I'm immersed every day in helping local residents, municipal staff, state policymakers find ways to make better walking environments and to encourage people to walk more. So I'm going to describe a couple of the projects we've done and sort of the outcomes to give you a flavor of how exciting it is and how important it is to the communities that we all live in. And while we, of course, are thinking about health in the way that Dr. Salas presented it, we're also thinking about the health of communities more broadly, the big picture, and that's what we're doing on the ground. So, for example, in one of the small cities that WalkBoston is working in, leading a very intensive Safe Routes to Schools program, the coordinator of the local public health initiative on food and fitness summed up the impacts of the walk to school work by describing what she called the ripple effects around the community. What she said is that raising local awareness of the need to fix streets and sidewalks and crossing conditions for the students actually caused the city to look all around and think about where do they need to fix things for walking for everybody and then apply for funding to do that. She said that the children walking was inspiring other community efforts to encourage walking, like creating walking clubs for adults, running a fitness challenge using the existing urban trail and creating another urban trail. Seeing so many children walk to school inspired one of the principals to start an early morning physical activity program for the days that were too snowy or too cold for kids to walk. And perhaps most compelling of all, what she said is that having other people in the community see children out walking has made the city neighborhoods feel safer and more walkable, and she sees people getting to know more of their neighbors. That's a really important effect. All of that from kids walking to school. In another community where we were working with local staff and residents to create a town center walking map and helping them create a marked walking route based on a children's book from the community that was written by an author from the community called The Little Engine That Could, which, by the way, maybe we could adopt as a metaphor for the walking movement. The local school superintendent wrote us the following note, and I'm quoting, "I've noticed more than ever that people seem to be walking everywhere in Milford lately. Just the other day, my daughter took it upon herself to walk from her piano lesson at Memorial Hall to her rehearsal at the Performing Arts Center on Main Street in downtown. Even though I was a bit concerned about her safety and crossing Main Street by herself, she felt very comfortable doing so because, quote, everyone was walking everywhere. I think this shows a remarkable culture shift in the community where I've worked for the last 14 years. What an amazing story about the power of small steps to change the culture of walking. Finally, when we taught local youth in one of Boston's poorest neighborhoods how to use the city's online reporting system to document things like unpainted crosswalks, street lights that needed fixing, and other mundane but important infrastructure problems, The youth reported that almost 70% of the problems were repaired within a few weeks. Our advocacy training turned out to create not only a group of young people who became walking advocates in their own neighborhood, but even more important, a cohort of civically engaged youth who have seen that they can have a positive impact on their own neighborhoods. Some of the changes we need for walking are pretty small and pretty doable, and municipal leaders like to do them, and that is a great way to get people engaged in their community. So these globally small but locally important successes strengthen my belief in the importance of walking as a critical ingredient for healthy and happy communities. While walking is not a magic bullet for fitter people, although maybe it is, according to Dr. Salas, vibrant main streets and a healthier planet, it sure is a necessary part of the recipe. And as someone said yesterday, maybe it's the secret sauce that we need for our communities. So, as someone once said, you can't wring your hands and roll up your sleeves at the same time. So, to put it in walking terms, you can't stand still and get people walking at the same time. So let's get moving. So what are the big takeaways? First, regardless of the federal or even state policies that we need to make walking easier and safer, changes in the walking environment require lots of on-the-ground local advocacy. Second, culture change and infrastructure change go hand in hand to create impact, and we need to keep both of those balls in the air all the time. And finally, last but not least, the impacts of local walking programs and built environment changes have ripple effects that go well beyond their immediate participants and locations. This is a great multiplier effect, and one that we should shout out as we grow the walking movement across the country. So come visit us in Boston and Massachusetts. We have great places to walk. Thank you.